Good morning. Welcome back to Planet Doug Behind the Scenes. This is a behind the scenes video because I'm just out to meet a couple of friends that I'll talk about in a minute and living my daily life. As always, my day is beginning with getting across this very busy street safely and then walking down to the Masjid Jamek LRT station. From there, I'm heading down to Pasar Seni, transferring to the Kajang MRT line to go all the way to One Utama. That's the One Utama shopping mall. I think the MRT station there is called Bandar Utama. So I'm heading to Bandar Utama MRT station. And there I'm meeting up with Matthew. If you've been following my story, you've heard about Matthew before, probably seen him as well. I met him through my YouTube channel, and he's offered me a lot of help during my time here in Kuala Lumpur. In particular, when I was planning my trip to Sumatra with my bicycle, he volunteered to pick me up in his SUV, me and my bicycle, and drive me all the way to Port Dickson, where I got on the ferry to Sumatra. And that helped me out a lot because cycling out of KL is extremely difficult. So getting a ride there was cool. And then he actually came down and picked me up with my bicycle and drove me back into KL. And I'm not riding my bicycle right now, so I needed a place to put it. And Matthew kindly offered me a little piece of his home. And my bicycle is there in pieces. I have it all wrapped up in garbage bags. And it's kind of dismantled, and it's in storage at his house. So I'm heading off to meet Matthew for coffee. Going to hang out at his house for a little bit, I think. Check up on my bicycle. And then we're going to have lunch at the One Utama shopping center. And if all things go well, the famous, the amazing, the inimitable WanderEats Daryl is going to join us for breakfast. So that's what this behind the scenes video is all about. And I've been really busy here in KL, socially, more so than usual. I keep heading off in the morning to meet people for coffee, for breakfast, doing different things. So that has been interfering with my behind the scenes video production. So what I decided to do was switch modes and record a behind the scenes video while I'm going to meet these people. I'm not going to be recording my coffee with Matthew, our conversation, or lunch with him and Daryl. I'll show them on video briefly, but I'm not going to record the whole thing. I'm just going to record all of my thoughts and stories as I ride and walk to meet Matthew and Daryl. So that's what's happening right now. And I was just thinking, it's kind of a good way to do it because it's not just me babbling. From time to time, you get to see what's around me. And right here, what's around me, of course, is the Masjid Jamek LRT station. And one thing I wanted to do here, just for fun, just for the experience, is get a coffee from the CoffeeBot. There's the CoffeeBot. This is new, and I've never gotten a coffee here before. And of course, even if I get a coffee, I won't be able to drink it on the LRT, so I'm gonna have to stand out here and enjoy it, but that's okay. So these are my choices. Got an iced Americano, latte, green tea latte, and you can pay with touch and go and things like that. So that's what I'm particularly excited about. I want to try this out with touch and go. So I guess the cup is dispensed automatically and fills here, and then over here you can get your sleeve, lid, things like that. So yeah, this is a CoffeeBot. And I guess there's the friendly CoffeeBot who's going to be dispensing my coffee this morning. I don't know, iced or hot? To be honest, I think I'm gonna go for iced this time, just because I don't have a lot of time to drink a hot coffee. I can drink an iced one very quickly, and it is really hot. I mean, it's just not hot, it's humid, incredibly humid. So I don't want to start right now in the LRT system sweating from a hot coffee. So let's see, how can I record myself getting a coffee? I need a place to attach my GoPro, and there's nothing around here except a garbage can, but that'll work. Except it's going to be far away. I attached my GoPro to a garbage can. Better keep an eye on it so the garbage guy doesn't come along and take it. So yeah, power of the Touch and Go eWallet. A Planet Doug subscriber was kind enough to add some money to my Touch and Go eWallet, so I have to get it here. And when you use one of these e-wallets, there's always two options. It depends who does the scanning. I can either scan their QR code or they have to scan mine. And I think for something like this, they have to scan mine. So I open up a QR code that they can scan. So let's see how this works out. I'm very far away, so you can't see the close-up, but at least you can hear me still. So let me figure this out. What do I do? I don't know if I start, choose your favorite drink first. So you choose your drink first. I'm gonna get an iced cappuccino. Okay. And then you can add extra coffee, extra milk, or you can adjust the amount. Let's go for extra coffee and no sugar and leave it at that, okay. Select your payment method and then flash your QR code for 5 seconds till it beeps. So I select eWallet. Do you have a member card or voucher code? No, I don't. eWallet. Do you have a member card or voucher code? No. I guess I can't do it. It just kicks me out every time. It just says, I say eWallet, and it says flash QR code here, but nothing is working. But it does say, do you have a member card or voucher code? No, yes. And if I select no, it kicks me out and I go back to the beginning again. So I'm stuck, I can't do it. What if I select yes? eWallet, do you have member voucher code? Yes. I got kicked out again. It doesn't work. Wonder if they know. I'm doing everything right. I chose my drink, I think. Oh, maybe I have to hit order first. Ah, okay. Please select payment channel. You have to hit, they don't have that in their instructions. This sort of stuff drives me crazy. How hard is it to sit down and work out your instructions? But it doesn't say. Oh, it does say. I'm the dummy. It does say, choose your favorite drink and tap order. So apologies to CoffeeBot. They do have it here. I just didn't read carefully enough. Okay. Touch and go. Or do I have to choose it here or here? Select payment channel, and it gives me this, but it's not responding, so maybe that's when I have to do it here. eWallet. Do you have a member card? No. Aha. Vending in progress. The product is brewing. It deducted 7 ringgit. Okay, okay. Coffee. Vending in progress. Come on. I don't see a whole lot of vending going on. Oh, here comes some coffee. Here comes some milk. Huh. So it is working. A little bit confusing, as I said. You have to read carefully, but at the same time, and then it says, choose your payment method, but what they give you on the screen here is non-responsive. Oh, the door opened automatically, and we're done. Hey, look at that. Ice cold, because it dispensed ice as well. I assume the milk was cold, but they also put ice in it. So let's give this a flavor check. And I'll have to try one of their hot coffees. Maybe when I come back at the end of the day, maybe I can try a hot one. Maybe that gives you more of the coffee flavor. Anyway, I enjoyed that experience anyway. Someone else is getting a coffee. I just wanted to confirm that I'm not crazy. It does say choose your payment method, and it gives you all these options. But this is not touch responsive. Now you have to go to this screen. So that's a little bit confusing. By the time I got to the end of my iced drink, the coffee flavor was really starting to come through. It was good. For 7 ringgit, that's a very good value, at least for the cold coffee. I think so. Yeah, there you go. First small adventure of the day. Power of the touch and go. The Hari Raya holiday is coming up. The MRT stations and a lot of the businesses, office buildings, hotels, they're all putting up their Raya decorations. Here's the one at Masjid Jamak. They have a Dunkin' Donuts here. And outside the turnstiles, there's a Starbucks over there. Churritos. So where am I going again? Oh yeah, past Arseni. Transfer to the Kajang line. My coffee adventure has distracted me, so I forgot where I was going for a minute. I'm not that accustomed to the LRT system being this busy, but this is rush hour. Everybody's going to work, so yeah, a lot of people riding the trains right now. First thing on my mind this morning, and if I were sitting on my bed in my hotel room talking about my life, this is also what I would be talking about, is a friend of mine from decades ago named Scottie. We've been messaging back and forth a little bit on WhatsApp. Scottie and I were on the same exchange program way back in the, what was it even, 80s or 90s? It was an exchange program with India. So we stayed in touch over the years, and we chat back and forth on WhatsApp. But an interesting thing, I often think about how people communicate, and Scottie likes to use the audio recording facility on WhatsApp. And my friend Daryl here in KL, he likes to do the same. So Scottie will often just hit he'll just hit the record button on WhatsApp, and then, well, I think you have to hold down the button maybe. I've only done it once or twice, so I don't really know the method, but he will basically record his message and send it to me as an audio file. It's the automated system in WhatsApp, which I really like. I enjoy that. As I said, Daryl does it too, and I listen to Scottie's audio message, and then I tend to write. I type, so I would type out a reply, and then he would send back another audio message, and we have a conversation that way. I think I don't use the WhatsApp automated system, mainly because it doesn't allow for any kind of editing. It's all being recorded live. So while you're holding down the button, it's recording, and then as soon as you lift your finger, it stops recording, and then that's your message. Anyway, well, it's really noisy right now. I'm not used to this train being this noisy. We should be emerging from the tunnel right now. We'll probably get quieter once we come out of the tunnel. Come on, tunnel. There we go. So there's the real world. As you can see, it's very not smoggy, it's cloudy today. Very, very humid. Skies aren't clear today. So here's a Pasarseni station. I come here all the time in my daily life. I'll often have my camera pointed out the door of the LRT train or the MRT train just to film the door opening and going out on the platform. But if there are people on the other side of the door, I don't want to stick a camera in their face, so I lower the camera. And another train just arriving right now. So I'm going to head to the escalator to beat the rush. So anyway, Scottie with his messages was kind of interesting, which is what I wanted to talk about. They're audio messages, as I said. And as often happens with people who do a lot of traveling, we were chatting about visas, tourist visas and things like that. And he's been spending a lot of time in Mexico. So when the pandemic kicked off, Scottie just happened to be in Mexico, I guess. I don't know all the details of his travels, but I think he was in Mexico, and that's where he ended up during the pandemic. And it sounds like it was a pretty good place to be. Even now, he was telling me that Canadians get an automatic 180-day visa stamp when they enter the country. So it's similar to what they do in Malaysia. Malaysia, we get a 90-day social visit pass. So essentially, it's a stamp that you get at the airport. It's not technically even a visa. You don't have to apply for the visa. So Mexico is the same. As far as I know, he just shows up in the airport or at the border and then stamp 180 days. So of course, to someone like me, someone like Scottie, that's like catnip. We cannot resist that. And he's kind of based his life in Mexico for a long time. And he can stay there basically for 6 months on one entry. And then he recently even had some trouble where by accident he overstayed his 6 months, and then he touched base with the local expats and got advice from them, and they says, oh, it's no problem, just go to the immigration office wherever it is, tell them what happened, and then you can get a temporary visa to cover the extra days, because he had a flight to Costa Rica. So he went to immigration and showed them his flight out of the country, and can I get an extension on my 6 months until that date? And they were absolutely happy to do it for him. And he had this amazing conversation with the immigration officer, because the guy asked him, well, after Costa Rica, do you have plans to return to Mexico? And normally that's a little bit of a red flag situation where you don't want to say yes, because then they take a hard look at you. But Scottie, he's just a very upfront, one of the most honest people I know in the world, and he's always just straightforward and honest with everyone. And he just says, oh yeah, I plan to come back to Mexico. And then the immigration officer says, oh, that's wonderful. When you come back, should be no problem at all. Enter you in the country. And he asked Scottie a couple of more questions. So, okay, you're coming back to Mexico. Are you working here? Are you earning money while you're here? And Scottie said, no, I'm not. I'm a tourist. Okay, that's good. And he said to him, the immigration officer said, and are you spending a lot of money while you're here? And Scottie said, yeah, I'm spending tons of money while I'm here. And then the immigration officer, that's wonderful. Welcome to Mexico. We're happy to have you here for as long as you want to stay. Because, I mean, the immigration officer's perspective seems so rational to me when it comes to tourism. So many countries put in so many restrictions, and I always end up thinking, well, you've got all these people from Canada, the United States, want to come to Mexico, stay for a long time, and the entire time that they're there, they're just spending lots of money, putting money into the economy, and isn't that a good thing for Mexico? So why all the trouble? And this immigration officer was like, yeah, you know, you're here, spending a lot of money, helping out our economy. Welcome to Mexico. Come back anytime. It was such a great story. Anyway, I'm here down on the platform, and I'm not really thinking that much as I'm moving along. So hopefully, I'm just trusting that my feet are bringing me in the right direction, to the right station and right platform. And here we are, past Arseni, and I'm going to Bandar Utama. So it's actually not very far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stops. But I checked on Google Maps, and the actual journey from my hotel to this location is quite far. Even my friend Jamie probably wouldn't walk there. It's only 6 stations, but the distance between each station are significant. Ooh, my train is arriving right now. And according to Google Maps, it would take 4 hours to walk to Bandar Utama. So I think even Jamie would bow to the inevitable and come with me on the MRT if he was still here in the country. 4-hour walk, that's a long ways to go. So, the train goes, the final destination is Kwasa Damansara. There's the sign up there. This train, of course, 0 minutes because it just arrived. Then 1 in 4 minutes, then 8 minutes. So every 4 minutes, there's a new train. I don't know how crowded the train is. Not too bad. So I'm on the MRT now, 6 stops to get to Bandar Utama. Much quieter than the older LRT system, much smoother ride. You can probably hear it. So lowering my voice a little bit. Everybody going to work and going to school. So the first story on my mind from the world of Planet Doug is that on Sunday over the weekend, I met up with a friend of mine here in KL. It's also someone I got to know through my YouTube channel, and we arranged to meet for breakfast. And we've done this before, and I like to go to local traditional places, so I might go to like ICC Market or Yut Ki and get a chicken chop, things like that. There's Cafe Dian in my neighborhood, a whole bunch of other kopitiam, traditional historic places that I like to go to. But for this breakfast, I kind of wanted to do something different. I've never really branched out into the big fancy places that offer a Western breakfast, for example. I may have done it in the past, but I don't do it often. And I did some searching, and I came across a restaurant with a very unusual name. And in fact, I had to look up the pronunciation because I did not know how to say the word. And the name of this, it's a bit of a branch, like a chain, I think, where they have, I think they have branches in different countries and 3 or 4 of them in Kuala Lumpur. So the place is called the Antipodean. And I guess there's one here in KL at Mid Valley, which is very popular. But the one that I picked out, I didn't know at the time it was a chain. I just typed in something like breakfast restaurant into Google, and this place called Antipodean showed up. And only one location showed up. I thought that was the name of just one restaurant. So that's where I went. I didn't know that there were a whole bunch of them. And I arranged with my friend to meet there. And yeah, so I wanted to find out what this meant as well, to be honest. It was a brand new word to me. I had no idea what Antipodean meant. And of course, it's a variation of the word antipode. And an antipode is the position on the earth exactly opposite to where you are. So every city in the world has an antipode. So from Kuala Lumpur, if you drill down through the center of the earth and come out on the other side of the planet, whatever is located there, exactly opposite to you, is your antipode. And I didn't know this, but I guess over the years, over the decades, or maybe over the centuries, New Zealand and Australia came to be known as antipodes because they are on the other side of the world from Europe, from North America. And if you're talking about something in New Zealand or Australia, the adjective, you describe it as Antipodean. So Australia is an Antipodean country. Anything that's exactly opposite to you on the planet, you can describe as Antipodean. So I thought that was quite interesting. I got to learn a new word. So this particular Antipodean restaurant was sort of in the Ampang area. I had to go to Ampang Park. Oh, we just emerged from the tunnel. Yeah, from here all the way to Bandar Utama, we stay above ground. All the way to Kuala Damansara. In fact, I think we stay above ground. And it's an interesting ride. You get to see a lot of interesting areas of KL. Right now, it's not that interesting just because of the weather. There's a downtown, Petronas Towers, KL Tower, Merdeka 118. And we're heading out into more residential districts. But of course, even though it's residential, there's still a lot of business out here. Look at that highway system. And skyscrapers everywhere. So yeah, riding this train can be quite a tourist attraction, just to get to know the city better. And you pass all kinds of really interesting buildings. I've shot a lot of video on this train, at the front of the train, doing a time lapse, things like that. Yeah, it's fun to ride on. But anyway, in my breakfast story, I rode the MRT to go to I rode the LRT to go to Ampang Park, and I had just done that same trip to go to, where did I head to that time? I had to transfer from the LRT to the MRT. Oh, that's when I went to the National Art Gallery. So I knew where I was going, and then you exit from the Ampang Park LRT, and then it was like a 7-minute walk to this restaurant. And great restaurant, nothing but good things to say about it. It's a very nice place, very well designed, comfortable seating, nicely air conditioned. The staff were really good. That really jumped out at me, how attentive the staff were. They really took care of you. And it was almost like they were watching from a distance to make sure that you were okay. At one point, my breakfast partner knocked her fork off the table and it fell onto the floor. A convenient seat has opened up, so I think I'll sit down. I just have to make sure that I don't get so involved in my story that I just go right past Bandar Utama. So yeah, she knocked the fork off the table, and then before she could even reach down to pick it up, one of the staff members there came rushing over with a new fork wrapped up in a serviette, new fork, new knife, and says, "Oh, don't worry about it, just leave it on the floor, we'll take care of it. Here you are, here's a clean fork." Things like that happened all throughout the meal. And when you sit down, there's a bottle of water in one of those fancy bottles with a fancy cork on the top full of drinking water, and you can just refill your water glass. And they have an extensive menu on the wall, massive menu system, and they have a QR code on the table. You can scan that and it opens up their online menu and you can see all of their dishes. And as soon as I chose this place to go for breakfast, I knew I wanted their big breakfast. They did have some kind of a breakfast special for 20 ringgit. They have this printout, a laminated printout that has all the options, what you can get for 20 ringgit, and it includes a coffee or some other drink, something like that. But that was a little bit too complicated for me, and I had my heart set on the big breakfast. So yeah, I mean, you can have your choices, sausage or bacon or I don't know, all kinds of different meats, plus of course scrambled eggs or hash browns, salad. Yeah, it's a whole, like a Western style breakfast. And I ordered a Americano coffee on top of that. Really nice, really good breakfast. And I think their big breakfast is 33 ringgit. So it's a bit pricier than, say, going to a place like Yut Ki for a breakfast there. But it's a whole different experience, of course. And that particular outlet of Antipodean, I don't know if it's the best one to go to because it is in the middle of a massive set of office block towers, businesses, residential towers, bank buildings. So it doesn't have a very homey, cozy, interesting feeling to it. I think a lot of their customers live in that area. I think there's a lot of expats live in those condominium towers, and then they have the habit of going there every Sunday for brunch, something like that. But I from what I read online, the Antipodean outlet, say at Mid-Valley, might have a bit more character if you're looking for local atmosphere because it's busier. I think it's beside a Starbucks with a window. You can look outside and see everybody walking around the shopping mall or walking outside. But I think any of them would be good. Yeah, I had a good breakfast there. I don't think I have a whole lot more to say about that particular story. Good breakfast, good company, and my breakfast partner was out riding a bicycle, actually. And she rode her bicycle there, and that was kind of interesting because I've had this experience myself so many times in my life. You think of a bicycle as being very human, or being very gentle. What's the word I'm looking for? It's non-threatening form of transportation. It's a bicycle. It should be welcomed everywhere you go, but in fact, most of the world isn't ready for bicycles. And a big building like that, because this restaurant was in a big skyscraper, big office tower of some kind. And of course, that place is dripping with security guards. And there's nowhere for bicycles. There's no parking for bicycles. So if you show up there on a bicycle, the security is going to come running up. They don't like bicycles. They don't know what to do with them. And you're not allowed to just lock it up. You can't find a telephone pole or a fence and just lock your bike to the pole. You just can't do that in that kind of neighborhood. So she was chatting with the security guards, and they said, well, what you need to do is go down into our underground parking. And again, even there's facilities for cars and for motorcycles and scooters, but there's nothing there for bicycles. There's no bike rack. There's nothing metal that you can lock your bike up to. So all she could do was lock her bike up to this sort of it was just like a plastic pole that had a plastic chain on it, and anybody could just break that plastic with their hands and run away with their bicycle. But at least down there it's secure. There's security there. And as far as I could tell, there was no charge for putting her bicycle there, because I went down there with her at the end of our breakfast, and then I walked with her where she was going, because she was going to Decathlon to have her bike worked on, some maintenance. And so we walked all the way there from Antipodean. I just like saying Antipodean now. And same thing when we got there, of course. She had an appointment with Decathlon to bring her bicycle in for service, but you can't just roll your bicycle into a shopping center. The guards won't let you do that. And they told her she had to go around to the back. So we're not there yet. So I went with her around to the back of the huge building where Decathlon is located. This was right around the KLCC Petronas Towers area. And then we found an elevator there, and we were standing there chatting, and she was going to put her bicycle in the elevator and go up to Decathlon. But of course, while we were standing there chatting, the security guards found us. Very nice guy, very friendly security guard, but he's still security. And he came up to us, very suspicious of the bicycle, like, what are you guys doing here? Why are you standing here talking for so long? And then he spoke to my friend and found out that she's there to bring her bike to Decathlon. And he says, well, you can't take your bicycle into this elevator. We have kind of a freight elevator further to the back. And then he offered to take her there. So that was very, very nice of him. He was a very friendly security guard. And then he walked with her and walked her to the freight elevator. And then I didn't see what happened after that, because I parted ways with her there. I let her take care of her errands on her own. And so I assume she found the freight elevator, went up to Decathlon. But it just seems odd to me in a way where riding a bicycle, you feel like that's the gentlest, most non-threatening, inoffensive form of transportation there is. And yet most of the world is, they're not actually against bicycles, but whenever you try to use a bicycle for transportation inside a city, the city environment in most countries is pretty hostile towards bicycles. And I've run into that so many times in my life. I told my friend the story, which I'm still upset about decades later, where I was working in Taipei, and the company I worked for was in a big office tower, and I rode my bike to work, and I tried to speak to the owners of my company to help me find a safe place to put my bike, because they had underground parking for cars and for motorcycles, and I thought surely we can make arrangements that, since I work in the building and I'm willing to pay for it, a monthly parking fee, can I put my bicycle in the underground parking every day? And for whatever reason, my company refused to help me out. So I locked up my bike outside on the street. I didn't have a choice. And of course, when I went out there at the end of the day, my bike was gone. Bike thieves cut the lock and took it. So I've held a grudge against my company that I worked for ever since then. But yeah, that was such a beautiful bike. I'd spent weeks shopping for a bicycle, bought this one. It was such an amazing bike, not super expensive, but we're still getting up into plus $500, because you buy all the accessories and the special bags and the lights and all the gear that you put on the bike. You kit it out, and all of that work, my lovely bicycle just vanished in the blink of an eye. Yeah, that happens all the time. And from there, since I was on foot, I just hopped into the KLCC LRT station and went back to my hotel from there. So that was that's the story of my Antipodean breakfast. So this is where we are now, still extremely gray, but we are arriving at Bandar Utama station. And that trip went by very quickly because I was telling my story the whole way. Doors opening from the opposite side. Exit here. And here we are in the land of the giants. Giant buildings over there, giant buildings over there, and a massive shopping center right over there. One Utama. And getting there and navigating this mall can be quite challenging. Again, I have to just trust my feet, because I've been here quite a bit, quite a few times. And the first couple of times I really had to stop and think and look at all the maps to figure out where I was and where I needed to go. There's the sign, Bandar Utama. And this stop is it's on the Kajang line, station number 9, KG9. That is one thing I've noticed about the MRT, LRT system here. I'm not convinced that the naming conventions make a lot of sense, because if I think of the English word, Kajang, the first two letters that pop into my mind are K and J, the Kajang line. Jang starts with a J and Ka with a K. Kajang line. But in Malaysia, for whatever reason, they seem to have the pattern of picking the last letter in the word, G, because Kajang ends with a G, so they called the line the KG line. And so every time I look at KG, I have a little moment of hesitation, of confusion. What line is that? Oh, Kajang, the G at the end. And I don't know if that's something that happens around the world in different countries, but if I were doing it off the top of my head, I had to take every MRT line and make a 2-letter abbreviation for it. For this line, I would choose KJ. And there's also the new MRT line, Putrajaya. And I guess that one's a little, what do they do that for Putrajaya? I think it's PY. I think they chose PY. So I guess at the very end it does say Ya, which has a Y on it, so Putrajaya. But somehow my brain thinks it should be a T, PT, Putrajaya or PJ. PJ would be best, right? Putrajaya. So that should be PJ. This one should be KJ. That would be more logical to me. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go remind myself, oh, that's right. Aha, I have to follow my feet. I exit from the other side. I almost made a mistake because I was talking so much. I go out in this direction. I knew something was wrong. I was slowing down. I was like, okay, this isn't right. I shouldn't be going there. Okay, here's the sign over here. This one doesn't have the abbreviations, but there's Putrajaya. So my idea would be PJ. That would be my abbreviation. There's Kajang, KJ. They chose KG. And for Putrajaya, they did something else. But I can't quite remember. I'm going to have to find another sign so I can talk about this. On this side of the station, they have a long tunnel here. Well, it's not really a tunnel, it's a raised walkway, but it has a roof over the top, so it actually looks like a tunnel. And again, looking out the window, whoa, you can see why you need pedestrian bridges, elevated walkways, big highway system there, exit and entrance ramps, and right over here is a river system. So if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, you have to navigate all of these barriers as well. Imagine trying to get across that. One time when I was here in Kuala Lumpur, I got stuck and I just could not figure out a way to get and to make my journey on my bicycle, and I ended up crossing one of these highways by climbing the fence. I actually rode my bicycle out to the barrier. You see that barrier separating the two lanes? It wasn't here, it was somewhere else. It wasn't quite this big or dangerous, but it was a highway system like this. And I got so frustrated and so fed up, I just thought, okay, I'm gonna climb the fence. I rode my bike to the middle of the highway, picked up my bike, climbed over the fence, carried my bike over the fence in order to get to the other side. I honestly could not figure out any other way of getting to where I wanted to go. I'd been trying for so long, and I got so frustrated. I'm just gonna nearly kill myself by riding out into the middle of the highway and then carrying my bike over top of the fence. It's pretty crazy, but I got where I needed to go. I've been giving a cheery hello and a very cheery good morning to all of the security personnel that I've been passing along the way, because whenever I'm talking into the GoPro, I always, out of the corner of my eye, in an MRT system, a shopping center, anywhere you are out in public, there's always security somewhere in Malaysia. There's a lot of security people. So I always see them. And of course, the job of security people is to keep things secure. And if you had to list the things in the world that make security nervous, from my perspective, number one, of course, would be cameras, video cameras. They're very suspicious of anybody with a video camera. So I feel nervous talking into a camera when there's security around. And then number two, bicycles. They seem to really dislike bicycles for some reason. They just don't know how to deal with them. But anyway, I see these security people all over the place, and then I suddenly feel a little bit paranoid. I feel like I'm doing something wrong by vlogging with my GoPro. So when I walk past the security guards, I try to present this open and honest demeanor, and I make eye contact, like long, friendly eye contact, and I turn to them, "Good morning, how are you? Nice." And then the next security guard, "Good morning. Hello." You know, I'm greeting all of the security guards everywhere I go, just because I feel guilty. I haven't done anything wrong, but as soon as there are police around, you automatically feel like you've committed a crime. So anyway, I'm here at the pickup point. This is the pickup point. But yeah, here's a pickup drop-off point. And Matthew will be coming here to get me. And then we're going to go to his house. I'm not going to show you Matthew's house, of course. That's his private and personal life. But when we get there, hopefully I can give you a little shot of my bicycle. I have it sitting there, and my trailer, both there. And I'll take a little bit of video of my bike and trailer. And yeah, you can see where my bike has been all this time. It's actually in a storage area outside, which is probably very hot. So I'm not really sure how well my bicycle and trailer survived these hot and humid conditions, but hey, what can you do? Southeast Asia, it's hot and humid. Like right now, yeah, it's another humid day. It wasn't like this yesterday or the day before. Some days are just dripping with humidity, and today is one of those days. I'm here pretty early, so I have some time to tell some more Planet Doug stories. Just moving to another spot on the bench here so that the light is hitting me instead of being backlit. But as I went through the MRT station, I didn't see any more maps that had the abbreviations on it, but I looked it up online, and I was right. The Putrajaya line, the abbreviation on all the signs for that line is PYL, which makes no sense at all. I assume the L at the end means line, so Putrajaya line, so it's PY line, PYL. But as far as I know, no other line follows that convention. It's not KGL for Kajang line, it's just KG. So why did they choose PYL for Putrajaya? And I have to say that every time I go through the MRT and I want to take the Putrajaya line, I have a momentary confusion because I see PYL and like, oh, that's not Putrajaya. Where's the Putrajaya line? And then I realize, oh no, PYL, that's Putrajaya. And it makes no sense to me at all. Again, following the conventions of Kajang, I would just call it PJ, Putrajaya, PJ. Why call it PY? Doesn't make any sense to me, doesn't feel right. And then putting an L at the end when no other LRT or MRT line has the same naming convention. So these little details, I am always puzzled by them. And maybe it's my background as an editor, because when you're editing an entire magazine or an entire book, it's astonishing how many details there are that you need to get right. As soon as you take out an editing, like a mental editing magnifying glass, and really look at the details, more and more and more issues present themselves, because you really need to be consistent if you're a publication of any kind. If you start following bizarre, erratic conventions when it comes to punctuation, capitalization, abbreviations, anything like that, it leads to chaos. So you basically have to have, for any publication is going to have a book of all of their guidelines. This is how we abbreviate, this is how we capitalize, and you have to follow those rules. And the longer you look at an article or a series of articles, the more and more and more items become confusing and difficult, and you have to do research and figure out, okay, what's the best way to do this? And yeah, looking at an MRT system seems pretty obvious to me how you should do it, but maybe I'm looking at it from a Canadian point of view. Maybe for me, Kajang is KJ, but to a local person, their brain goes to the end of the word and they see KG. And Putrajaya, I see PJ, and maybe they see PY in their brain. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, that's the end of that story. Another story from life on Planet Doug. A big event in my life happened quite recently where I went on a day trip to a small village 45 kilometers outside of Kuala Lumpur called Janda, Baik. And I'm very familiar with the word Baik because I heard it a lot in Indonesia. It's the response to how are you, apa kabar, and people will say Baik. You know, it's not like the word bike in English, but it's similar, so I noticed it a lot. They would say Baik, which means good or well. So how are you doing? Good. Apa kabar? Baik. And this village is called Janda, Baik. And according to the history of the naming of the village is quite interesting. And Janda means widow or divorcee. So it's basically good widow. And I'll tell the story about where that name came from when I get to that part of the story. So to go all the way back to the beginning, all of this came about because a new friend of mine, someone that I've gotten to know through my YouTube channel, knows another man here in Kuala Lumpur, and this man used to be in the armed forces of Malaysia, and he has a personal connection to this village of Janda, Baik, which is, by the way, a tourist town filled with hotels and resorts and training centers and camps and waterfalls. It's up in the hills, it's in a valley, beautiful area as I found out, lush and green, 800 meters in altitude, so it's nice and cool up there. So it has developed as a popular weekend getaway for people from Kuala Lumpur. They have over 100 different resorts, hotels, guest houses, hostels, glamping. They have glamping sites, and they have training centers. So companies from KL can take their staff there for a weekend for conferences and training centers. And I think there are some sort of inspirational, motivational, self-help style camps that are located there as well. And groups can go there for a weekend of motivation and becoming focused in their life and their goals, things like that. So it's a very interesting village from that point of view. And this friend of my friend, as I said, was in the armed forces, and he used to run one of these camps in Janda, Baik, called ABC Camp. And I believe that stands for Awareness Before Change. And I knew nothing about this, but if you do a Google search for Awareness Before Change, it seems to be a worldwide movement of motivational material, programs, books, speakers, camps where they use awareness of you, of self-awareness and awareness of your life if you want to change and improve your life. Anyway, that's where ABC comes from. And this friend of a friend ran one of these camps, the ABC camp in Bandar. Anyway, he saw my video from the Port Dickson Army Museum. My friend told him about me and my YouTube channel, and the video that he watched just happened to be about the Army Museum. And since he had a history with the armed forces, that was his career here in Malaysia, he really liked the video and he enjoyed it quite a bit. And he had this idea that, well, I'm a YouTuber, I have an audience on YouTube. Janda Baik is a tourist town. They need publicity and marketing for their town, and he thought he could put us together. And he reached out to one of the tourism associations in Janda Baik and said, I know this YouTuber, he's very good, his videos are good, and perhaps you, the tourism association, would like to meet this YouTuber. You can do some sort of a collaboration where you could pay him to come to Janda Baik and shoot videos there for my YouTube channel, something like that. And the perspective of this man was from the point of view of, you're making YouTube videos, you're providing a service, you shouldn't do it for free. So his idea was the tourism association, they could meet me, and if we jive, if we make a connection and they look at my videos and they think I'm someone that they would like to work with, maybe we could make an arrangement where they could help me out financially in some way. I could come to their village and shoot videos there. And to be honest, from the very beginning of this whole story, I didn't really think I was the right person for the job, because my videos are not tourism based. They're not glossy, they're not polished. I don't have a drone. I don't stay in fancy hotels. I don't go to waterfalls. I don't rent ATVs. I don't look for saunas and fancy resorts with swimming pools. That's not what my life is about, and it's not what my videos are about. I'm a little bit more on the independent travel, adventure travel side of things, where you don't sign up for a 3-night, 4-day weekend package in a resort town. I'm more about making my own travel arrangements, staying in low-budget hotels, doing all of that stuff on my own, and having all kinds of misadventures along the way. So I think there would be some difficulty with me and a tourism board coming to any kind of arrangement. However, setting all that aside, my first friend, he contacted me and told me about all this and said, yes, my friend here in KL has this idea for you, and he would like to meet you and you can talk about this idea. And we got into a little bit of cross-cultural miscommunication at this point, which happens a lot, because when my friend sent me this message saying, hey, do you want to meet with this guy and you can talk about this village, Janda Baik, would you like to do that? And I thought, well, why not? I'd love to meet someone new. He sounds like a very interesting person. Sure, set it up. I'll meet this guy. We'll sit down, have a cup of coffee, chat about this idea. He could learn more about me. I could find out what his ideas were. And again, in my mind, it was meeting this guy for a cup of coffee, hour and a half, and yeah, that'll be interesting. And then we can go from there. So in my mind, that's where the story was. And then a few hours or a day went by, and then I got a message from my friend, and he said, okay, we're all set, and here is the program. And then he laid out an entire program that covered an entire day all the way into the evening. And it turned out what he set up, according to what I read in his message, early in the morning. He's going to pick me up at 6:45 in the morning. We're going to go here, actually, to Bandar Utama, this neighborhood. Going to meet his friend, and then we're going to drive. On that day, we're actually going to go to Janda, Baik, and we're going to have a meeting with the tourism board, and they're going to give you a tour of Janda, Baik, and then we're going to come back to KL, and then we're going to have a iftar together, breaking the fast later on that night with a big group of people. So I said yes to meeting this man for coffee. I thought it was a 1-hour coffee chat, but by the time I got a message back, it had turned into an entire day where we're actually going to Janda, Baik and having a meeting with the tourism board. So to be honest, I was taken aback. I wasn't ready for all of that. It really wasn't something I even wanted to do, because meeting the tourism board, well, in my mind, you meet the tourism board because you have a proposal, you have a presentation, you go to them and say, this is what I can do for you, and this is how much I would like to get paid. And obviously I was miles away from anything like that. 15 minutes until Matthew is supposed to show up here, so hopefully I can finish the story by then. So yeah, I wasn't prepared for that at all. And I wrote back to my friend and asked him, oh, what are their expectations? I'm not ready to meet a tourism board. I don't have anything to say to them. I thought we were just doing an exploratory, casual chat. But he says, oh no, it's fine, just sit down, chat with them. And since he already made the arrangements, everything was set. Meetings, timing, everything was all in place. So at that point, I was like, well, at the very least, it'll be an interesting day that my friend is going to come pick me up at 6:45 in the morning, and we're going to drive out into the mountains near Kuala Lumpur, and I'm going to get a tour of this village, and that's going to be really amazing. So I said, okay, let's do this. It's all arranged. So let's go have this adventure. But then in my mind, there was a little bit of a complication, because if I was going to go all the way to this village, a very amazing place, as I discovered, I would want to shoot a video about the day trip. I want to shoot a video about driving to Janda, Baik, seeing the village, touring the village. I wanted to make a video about all of that, of course. Why wouldn't I? But the whole meeting was to talk about me shooting a video about the village and them paying me for it in some fashion. So now I was thinking, well, isn't it weird to go to the village to talk about shooting a video for them, and yet the entire day I'm busy already shooting that type of Planet Doug video. So when the day came, I had my cameras, I had my camera bag already, I had all my GoPros, and yet I didn't know how to start the video. And in the end, at first we were driving through KL, I had my GoPro out, I was going to start filming, but then I couldn't quite figure out what the video was going to be about because of this confusion about, well, we're going there to have a discussion about shooting videos. It's kind of weird to shoot the video in advance. If I've already shot the video, why would they pay me to shoot the video? Because I'm already doing it for free, right? So anyway, I was way out of my element, because I don't do that sort of thing. I've never been paid for a video. I wouldn't even know how to do that. So anyway, I didn't start shooting the video. And then my understanding was that we were going to meet his friend for coffee, sit down, have a cup of coffee, talk to this man who was from Janda, Baik, who was in the army, who had the ABC camp, who had the connections. I was going to meet him, chat over coffee, and then my other friend and I were going to get back in the car and drive to Janda, Baik. That was my understanding of the day. But then we get to this man's house here in Bandar Utama, And to my surprise, he came out of his apartment and got in the car. Oh, I was like, that was a complete surprise. I had no idea he was coming with us. And then that changed everything all over again. It's like, oh, so he's coming with us. I didn't know that. I had no idea he was going to get in the car and come with us. And it turned out to be a wonderful experience because he was a very interesting man, very interesting life. He was he was actually 84 years old, but he was still in very good health. He was mobile, full of energy, very self-aware, very thoughtful person, had a lot of things to talk about. And as we rode in the car up to Janda, Baik, an hour and a half ride or something like that, we ran into some heavy traffic. We had a great conversation. He was in the back seat, I was in the front. They gave me the front seat of honor because I was the guest and I could look out the window and see things. And so I had to keep turning my head in order to talk to this man behind me, which made some of the conversation challenging. But yeah, I could have talked with this guy for hours. He had so many life experiences, very thoughtful man, very intelligent man, and I could have talked to him all day long, so that was great. This was great to have him in the car, but I wasn't prepared for it. So my idea at that point was, once we started driving out of KL, then I was going to break out my GoPro and start filming the day. But now I had this man in the car with me, and I didn't clear it with him that I'm going to be shooting video in the car, and do you mind if I record our conversation, things like that. I didn't even know he was coming with us. So again, at that point I went, well, okay, let's just leave the GoPro. And I just left my GoPros. For the whole day I didn't film anything because the circumstances just didn't seem appropriate for shooting a Planet Doug video. So anyway, we drove all the way up to Janda Baik, and at one point we were on an elevated highway quite high up, and we passed by Batu Caves. And I'd never seen Batu Caves from that point of view before. It was a stunning viewpoint. You could see the entire granite outcropping, the karst. Because normally when you go there, you're very close to it and you see the mountain range, but you don't get a view of it from a distance. But from the highway, you could see the entire limestone karst outcropping with the giant statue of Lord Murugan, with the stairs leading up to Batu Caves. It was a spectacular viewpoint. I'd never seen it from that point of view. And then when we got there, I almost missed it because I was talking to the man in the back seat. And then out of the corner of my eye, I saw something big and yellow, and it was the statue of Lord Murugan. And then I kind of went, whoa, look at that view. And at that point, I was like, oh, I wish I had my GoPro running. I'd love to have taken video of that, but I missed that entirely because I wasn't shooting video at the time. So, yeah, I learned all kinds of interesting things on this day. This is going to turn into a long story. I didn't shoot video about the day, but I guess I still have all the memories. So on the way there, we went by highway most of the way, and then we turned off a highway and we went into a village. And this man in the back seat, he told me some of the history of this village, and he said this is what we would call a Chinese New Village. And they have a lot of these villages all around Malaysia, and they date back to the emergency, which was the communist insurgency here in Malaysia. And in fighting against the communists, part of the strategy was to take the Chinese communities, the Chinese people in the countryside, and bring them together into these Chinese new villages. And then they would put a police post or a military post right there in the village, because they did not want the local Chinese people from giving aid to the communist insurgency, because I guess there was a strong Chinese presence in the communists and they were getting support, whether they were in reality, I don't know the history, but there was this idea amongst the military fighting the communists that they wanted to cut the Chinese communist guerrillas cut them off from any aid that might be coming from the local Chinese people. So you get all these new or Chinese new villages around the country. And that's how that was how they were founded. And this village actually was called Bukit Tinggi, which I thought was interesting because I spent so much time in Bukit Tinggi in Sumatra. So this village of Bukit Tinggi was founded as part of the fight against the communists, but now over time these villages, this one in particular, changed its economy and today is now a thriving village servicing the tourism sector, because you get a flood of people from KL driving up into the hills, or the Genting Highlands, that kind of area, and these villages provide restaurants and cafes, fruit, local products at a good price, and all the people from Kuala Lumpur will stop there to stock up on all of these products from the countryside and then come back to KL at the end of the weekend. And my host for the day stopped there and bought me some bananas. He asked me, what kind of fruit do you like? And I said, I'm not a big fruit guy, really. It's too much trouble to eat fruit. I better stop talking and go wait. But anyway, I'll end the story right here where we're going there. And my host and I got out of the car and he bought me a whole bunch of really good bananas. And then we went on from there to Janda, Baik. And I'll continue the story of Janda, Baik afterwards, after I meet up with Matthew. So yeah, I'll end the story there. The rest of the story of visiting Janda, Baik was really interesting. So stay tuned for that. And I think that's my ride. I always get confused about who drives what kind of car, but I think this is Matthew. Yep. Hey there, Matthew. I'm not going to vlog our day or anything like that, but I was talking about meeting you, so I thought I would at least put you on video for your arrival.
Okay.
So this is Matthew, everyone. You've probably seen him in previous videos, and we're heading back to his place to check up on my bicycle. Maybe have a yeah, we can talk about it and have a cup of coffee while we're there or something. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's head out. So setting the stage for the rest of the day, hung out at Matthew's house for a little bit. As I mentioned, my bicycle is there and I just checked up on it. My trailer is there and we were talking about having the bike there and can I leave it there longer or something like that. But now we are at One Utama and the idea now is to get a cup of coffee and then we're having lunch. And I guess we're in the old wing of One Utama. So here's the sign. And I guess this is the old wing. Maybe that marks it as the old wing. And so here's the One Utama shopping mall. So yeah, Matthew and I are going to find a place, have a cup of coffee, and then later on, ooh, look at that. Big display for Raya, I assume. Wow. Yeah, these malls really go all out when it comes to their holiday decorations. And then Daryl's going to join us for lunch later on, noon or 12:30 or something like that. But anyway, look at that. The old wing of One Utama. And there's Matthew.
Hi. Let's go. And then there's Thai Hou Sek, which is a Thai restaurant.
Okay. So I guess that's where we're going to either one of those two places.
Yes.
Wonder Mama or Thai restaurant there.
Yeah.
But coffee first.
That's right. So,
Just want to grab just a shot of this here.
It's Hari Raya, so it's
Yeah.
setup.
So there's the.
This will not be as grand as the new wing. The new
Oh,
wing,
I
they
see.
have a oval, which is much larger for things like this.
I see.
So people will come take Instagram photos and all.
Why the boats? Are the boats part of the Raya theme?
Yeah, maybe because of the culture, because certain Malay cultures, like they have one in Terengganu. These boats are
Yeah.
famous. So
Have you seen these before? Do they use the same display every year?
No.
Never seen it before?
Every year it's
Okay.
different.
Every year is different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
it's beautiful.
actually pay people to do this.
Yeah, we're at Starbucks Reserve, and apparently it moved. I think Starbucks used to be over there, and that's a Paris Baguette now, and they moved over here, and they overhauled the whole thing. Look at that, Starbucks Reserve. Yeah, it didn't look like this before, did it? Brand new design. Yeah, it's quite... Yes, please, hot latte. But yeah, the Reserves are quite a bit different. They often have this special coffee bar. I don't know if they're doing it here, but the other ones I've been to, you order there as normal, but then they actually make the coffee over here and you pick it up here and you get a little piece of chocolate with your coffee, stuff like that. Order for a latte has been placed, and Matthew was just explaining to me how this place is laid out, because he's been here living in this area long enough to see this whole shopping mall built. The old wing was here originally, and then he saw the new wing being built, so he knows all about the history. But he was saying that this parking area has been here forever, and we're standing in the old wing, and that over there, that's the new wing, and then they built this walkway here that connects the two, and the walkway is filled with shops as well. So I know I've gotten lost in this mall several times because it's so big and spread out with the new wing, the walkway, the old wing. But yeah, here we are. And Matthew has strategically chosen this place for me to sit so I get a view of the interior. But I just want to show what it looks like, and then I will shut down and we'll enjoy our coffee. I mentioned Daryl was coming to join us for lunch. There he is. We were just down in Starbucks for a while talking, and now we're up here to have lunch. And I thought it was Wonderama, one of the restaurants, but it's actually Wonder Mama. Okay, and it looks like Matthew has chosen the Thai place. So we're heading into Thai Hou Sek?
Thai Hou Sek.
Thai Hou Sek.
It's a play of words between Chinese and Thai. So Thai Hou Sek means very good, very yummy.
Okay.
In Chinese.
Makes sense.
In Cantonese, rather.
All right. So let's go in and join Matthew, and I guess I'll show some of the food when it gets to our table, but I'm not going to record our entire lunch or anything like that. This is just a little interlude in a behind-the-scenes video. So it looks like Matthew has a whole plan in advance. He knows, and he's ordering for the table, which I'm happy to let him do, and Daryl as well. So there's the menu for the place. Elephant on the front. But yeah, if I was paging through this, I would be so lost. All the different dishes. I guess I could figure it out because they have photographs.
Yes, they have photographs.
So that works out well.
So okay, I'm ordering dishes for us to share.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay with rice?
Yep. And it is actual lunchtime, so as you can see behind me, the place is pretty full. And there's the kitchen back there behind me. So when the food arrives, I'll show you what the food looks like, and then we'll dive in and enjoy the lunch. Can I ask you what you ordered and why you ordered it?
I forgot what I ordered. I ordered supposedly a pork balls, but they don't have that. So we have pork ribs coming.
Pork ribs.
Okay, something new. I've never tried that before, but it looks very interesting. Okay, I ordered green curry. Because green curry is something not so spicy as red curry, and I want you to try that. But of course, I'm not sure if you had green curry in Mae Sot before. And then the pandan chicken. The pandan chicken is wrapped in a pandan leaf and it's deep fried, so it's got a flavor inside there. And of course, eggplant.
I heard you say something about eggplant.
Yeah, because we know you love eggplant, so I tried that one. So we have 4 dishes, and then we have rice.
Right,
share.
Yes. Okay.
And then you ordered your Thai green milk tea, which will be interesting. And then for me will be Thai milk coffee, even though I just had coffee just now. And for him, Thai milk tea.
All right.
Okay, we just want to see whether it goes well.
Sure it will.
And whether it reminds you of Mae Sot or not.
The food has started to arrive. We've each got our own individual bowl of rice, and we have pandan chicken. There's chicken wrapped up in pandan leaves. And Matthew tells me you don't eat the pandan.
Yes, you don't.
Don't eat the pandan. You just eat the chicken. I would have eaten the pandan, so it's good to know. And this is pork?
Yes, pork ribs.
Pork ribs. Okay. And our drinks have arrived too, of course. There's my Thai green tea. Oh, there we are. And the whole table. And there's, I think, 2 more dishes coming. Oh, here's one of them right now.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, the green curry dish. So let's zoom in. What's that? Oh yeah, it's okay. So that's very green on my GoPro screen. Green curry dish. So I've got a little bit of a meal happening here. The pandan chicken. Looks really good. I think I'm just going to eat this whole piece. Really good.
See my bookmark, then he take the photo of the favorite dish, eggplant.
Oh, this is the eggplant.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. I need video of that big event. Great thing about being a YouTuber, you talk about the things you love on video, people remember it, and then when you say you love eggplant, look what happens. You end up with an amazing dish of Thai eggplant right there. Looking forward to that. Let's get some out here.
Oh wow!
Oh.
Eggplant.
There's a big piece of eggplant. Nice. And this dish, by the way, came with its own element underneath. A little bit of some sort of fuel down there was burning for a while to keep everything nice and hot. So, let's try the eggplant. I think I'm just going to pick up the whole thing and take a bite out of it. That is nice. That was really, really good.
It's supposedly the flavor.
Very fresh and juicy. Very, very moist. That's the word I'm looking for.
One of my favorite things.
Moving on to the next one. The braised pork green curry right there.
I stepped down after working in a corporate world for 20 over years.
Wow.
So I told my wife,
I wasn't expecting a feast like this.
it'll be a while before I can take you on a holiday, so I bring you to Bangkok. They wanted to go here, but my wife said, at the time, you know, the pandemic just ended. So you are a bit scared that too many people. Because this place is always very stacked.
Yeah, very.
Some people market, you know.
Now the famous things is at rock chai night.
Okay, so let's give this curry a try. Just get the flavor of the curry. That was really nice.
Everything is nice.
It is. I always talk about how I like my meals to be simple. I have small, simple, basic dishes. But then when I meet up with someone who knows about food and they put together a meal like this, then I realize what I'm missing. But I couldn't imagine eating like this every day. This would be way too much. Really good pork. And the green curry comes with some vegetables, but I don't know what these are. Well, I think that's enough of talking about the food. If I keep talking, I'll never get around to enjoying it. So just going to settle in, eat the rest of this, have a good chat with Daryl and Matthew, and I'll check back after lunch is over. So that's it. Lunch is over. Amazing lunch. I honestly was not expecting that at all. Good time hanging out with Daryl and Matthew. The two of them had never met each other in person before, so it was good that the two of them could get together. And yeah, good conversation, amazing food. And both Daryl and Matthew have gone back to their own lives. And as you can see, I'm back in the MRT system. Just going to hop on the train, head back to Pasar Seni, and from there to Masjid Jamek, back to my hotel. So before lunch, I was talking about the history of this village, Janda, Baik. And it has a very interesting founding story, because the area where the village is located, up in the hills, this beautiful valley, the people up there were the Orang Asli. That's who was living there. But there was a nearby city called Bentong. This is in Pahang. And then this city seemed to be prone to flooding. And in 1926, they had a big flood in Bentong. And some of the people there decided they wanted to look for a better place to live where it wasn't flooding all the time. And 3 men in particular made the trek up to this valley up in the hills, and they decided they wanted to settle there. The 3 of them built a hut, apparently, according to the story I read. And after they settled in this area, living in this hut that they built, more people from Bentong joined them, and it grew into a little community. And the 3 original men who went up there and built the hut, they were all Haji, meaning that they had completed the pilgrimage to Mecca. So when you referred to them, it was Haji so-and-so, Haji so-and-so. So the name of the village that they founded, they called it Tiga Haji. That was the name of the village when they founded it. And these were all people from Bentong who lived there. But then the name of the village changed after a while, because the Sultan of Pahang, he learned about this village. He learned how quickly it was growing, and he went up there to visit and see it for himself. And he apparently didn't like the name Tiga Haji. He didn't approve of it, so he suggested that they change the name, and they eventually settled on the name Janda Baik, and which means good widow, a good woman, basically. There were 2 stories there. There was a local leader who sort of had an argument with his wife, and then they got back together again later on. So she got the reputation for being a good woman, a Janda Baik. And the other story was that there was a widow living there who took care of soldiers. There was some fighting going on in the area. I can't quite remember what conflict it was, but there was fighting, and then some soldiers returning from the fight were injured, and this widow took care of them, bandaged their wounds, gave them medical aid, gave them a place to sleep. So she was known as a good woman, a Janda Baik, and then they named the village after her. So those were the 2 stories that I read, and that's how the place came to be known as Janda Baik. And then over the years, it developed a tourism industry, ecotourism, and all these hotels and guest houses started to grow there until today, when there's over 100 of them. So I'm on the MRT now, heading back towards Pasar Seni station, and here's the tracks ahead of me right now. I thought it was going to rain in the afternoon, and now that it's getting late in the afternoon, late in the day, the rain has kicked in. But I got a seat right here at the front of the train so I can look out the window as we go. One other interesting story about Janda Baik is that according to what I read, again, in the 90s, Kuala Lumpur was getting more populous, more crowded, and they had discussions about building a new government center, a new capital city, which eventually became Putrajaya. And according to what I read, they made a list of 6 possible sites to put the new Putrajaya, and the location of Banda Jaya was on the list. So that valley that I visited was a possible, that's where Putrajaya could have been built. They eventually decided on this other location where Putrajaya is located now, but Banda Jaya was on the list. And that would have been quite interesting had the capital city been built up there, the government center. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. So in terms of my personal experience of going there, I was on my way up there with my 2 new friends that I've gotten to know here in KL. And when we arrived, we went to one of the camps, ABC camp, and then 2 representatives of a local tourism association. So I guess all of the guest houses up there are grouped into associations. And one of these associations with maybe 40 different members or something like that, they were the people that I met with. And so we just had a very casual chat, sat down at a table, and I met some really nice people there, and we were talking about my life as a YouTuber and their various hotels and their guest houses and glamping sites, and how they would like to, they have various ideas for marketing their establishments to get more customers. And then we just basically chatted and then got to know each other a little bit. And we finally ended the meeting, if you can call it a meeting. It was more like a casual get-together. But we left it with that after Ramadan and after Raya, they're going to have a meeting amongst, like an association meeting. And then the main woman that I was speaking with that day, she was just going to bring up in the meeting this idea of working with a YouTuber to promote the area. And then we'll go from there. So yeah, that was very interesting. And then again, another kind of a big surprise to me was after this meeting wound up, I thought we were going to just pile back into the car and drive back to KL. But in fact, they had organized a tour of the whole area. So one of the members of the tourism association, he had a car there. And then myself and my 2 friends got into the car, and then this man drove us all around, going around all the various roads there and pointing out a lot of the hotels and the glamping sites that were all members of his association. And one of my new friends, the man with the history in the armed forces, he knew a lot of people there. And we actually dropped in to visit some of his friends who were living in these amazing houses there. Very interesting architecture, engineering, and design. And I got to meet all these interesting people. And we dropped in on places like, there's a resort there called 54 Ferns, I guess. And we went into 54 Ferns. It had a big gate, a locked gate to get through. And my friends made phone calls and made arrangements. And then the gate just suddenly opened up in front of us. And we drove into the grounds of 54 Ferns. And in the parking lot, a big electric go-kart, something that you would see at a fancy resort, came, and there was a driver, and he picked us up. And then again, I had no idea what was happening. I thought we were being driven to an office to meet somebody, but I guess what had been arranged was he was going to meet us in the parking lot, and then he was going to drive us around the whole resort and show us the grounds and tell us about all the facilities that they have there, all the different types of cottages and bungalows and guest rooms, things like that. So I got a guided personal tour of all of 54 Ferns, and then we went back to the parking lot and got back in the car, drove on to another interesting place, then another one and another one. And apparently there is a very famous writer living there. I can't remember his name right now. I'll put it on the screen down below. we didn't actually get to meet him. We drove to where he lives there. And I guess he's written all kinds of books, and he's a very famous figure in the world of politics and writing in Malaysia. But he happened to be gone that day. He was in Kuala Lumpur, so I wasn't able to meet him. But I got to see the place where he was living, and there was a big bulletin board there with all kinds of newspaper clippings and stories about him and his life. And I guess he was a little bit of a controversial figure. He was very outspoken and made a big splash in the political and literary world, I guess. So it was a very interesting village. I got the feeling it could even be something of an artist community. It felt like there could be writers and painters living there, sculptors, anything like that. So, and then after we went to visit where the writer's home was, then we finally did get back in the car and drive back to KL. And before the day began, there was this idea of me having a iftar with a group of people that night back in KL. But I begged off from that event because I was just so tired by that point. I'd had a long day already, it felt like. And by the time iftar time came around, the time late in the evening, like 7:30, something like that, that was the official time to break your fast. And by then I would have been completely out of steam, and I knew that I would be no good at a social gathering at 7:30 at night. So I thanked my hosts and said, I don't think I can attend. I kind of have to head back to my hotel. But yeah, that was the end of my trip to Janda, Baik. Very interesting place. And unfortunately, because of all of the stuff I talked about, a little bit of confusion around what was happening that day, I didn't actually record a video during the day. Now I wish I had, and I have ideas rolling around in the back of my head that now that I know this place exists, it would be nice just to go up there on my own, not connected with the tourism association, but just to go up there as a regular planned trip, find my own place to stay and just spend a few nights there, and then shoot a video about the place just from a typical Planet Doug vlogging point of view. So yeah, that may happen. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We'll have to see. So back at Pas Arseni, all roads for me pass through Pas Arseni, and I was going to hop on the Kelana Jaya line for the last stop to go to Masjid Jamek. But since I have one more Planet Doug story to tell, I think I'll walk, and I can walk along the river. That's always very nice, unless it's raining really hard. Maybe I'll take the LRT, but I'll take a look, see what the weather is like, and if it's okay, I'll walk back to my hotel. And yeah, the next story, when did this take place now? Maybe it was on Sunday, Saturday or Sunday, I can't really remember. But I went to a place I've been planning to visit for a long time, the P. Ramlee Memorial House. I've been seeing this listed online for a long time, and I've been looking at its location on Google Maps, and I never made my way there before. And one of the reasons I never went there was partially because it wasn't close to an LRT or MRT station, which is my normal way of getting around. So, I mean, you could take an LRT and then walk quite a long distance to get there, but for its location for me was a little bit awkward, so I never really got around to going there. I decided to finally do it, and since I was going to be shooting a video about the experience, I thought I would combine it. I'll make it a two-part video. One part of the video is about taking a bus. I was going to conquer my fear of the Rapid KL bus system and combine that with a visit to the P. Ramlee Memorial House. And of course, anyone from Malaysia, Thailand, Sumatra, this whole region, you know who P. Ramlee is, but for anyone from another part of the world, you may not have heard that name before, but he is essentially a movie and singing icon here in this part of the world. As I said in my original video, Hollywood has Cary Grant and all of the glamorous movie stars of that era. Malaysia and Singapore, they have P. Ramlee. And before I went to the museum, of course, I did a lot of reading about P. Ramlee, so I have a lot of facts about him in my head right now. And on top of that, since I wanted to get there by bus, I also did a whole lot of research into which bus to take, where I can get this bus, various bus stops, things like that. And I eventually got all of that figured out. More about that in a minute. I have to leave the LRT station first. I think we're okay. Yeah. Looks like it was raining somewhere. Not heavily, but there was some rain. But it's not raining right now, I don't think. So I can walk from here back to my hotel. Okay, leaving the LRT station, and I'm going to start walking along the river to get back up to Masjid Jamek. So, what was I saying? Yeah, P. Ramlee. I know a little bit of it. I'll tell a little bit of his history while I still have it fresh in my mind. There's a lot of things I knew about him, of course. I've even watched P. Ramlee movies in the past. I've listened to his music, and very interesting media for me because it provides a glimpse into the world of Malaysia from, say, the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, that whole era. You see it live in his movies, and it's so different from Malaysia today. Very, very interesting to see. The music, the fashion, the way people behaved. It didn't seem, to me, it doesn't seem like the same country at all. It seems like a different place. Almost, yeah, I'm not quite sure how to describe it. But anyway, so I knew quite a bit about him, but I learned more about him before I went to the memorial house. And it's called a memorial house, not a museum, because it's actually the house where he used to live in Kuala Lumpur. And they took his house where he lived, and he lived there with the actress singer Saloma, who was his third wife. That's another very glamorous aspect of his life. So I got to get across this busy road. Ah, look at that big opening in the traffic. Halfway across. Now we got to get across the other half. Look at that. Luck is with me on Planet Doug today in terms of navigating KL. Here's a sign for the rules surrounding the River of Life project. No littering, no indecent behavior, no graffiti, etc., etc. No motorcycles, no skateboards. Though as far as I'm aware, all of this is okay for bicycles. Some of the sections of the River of Life are hard to navigate by bicycle. You run into some stairs where you have to pick up your bike and carry it, and you hit some roads that are kind of difficult to traverse on a bicycle. But as far as I know, it's allowed to ride a bicycle even along these sections. It looks like a pedestrian walkway, but I think you're allowed to cycle here as well. So yeah, this place is the house where P. Ramlee lived with Saloma, which is quite interesting. And a few other biographical details. P. Ramlee's father was actually from Aceh province in Sumatra, and he migrated to Penang here in Malaysia. And in Penang, he met a local woman from Butterworth. They got married and they had children, and one of those children was P. Ramlee. And from a young age, P. Ramlee showed a talent for music. It just came naturally to him. He played a lot of different instruments. He wrote his own songs. He sang, and he entered singing contests, which he would then win. And at one of these singing contests at the age of 19, in the audience was a man from Singapore, or maybe from Malaysia. I'm not sure where this man was from, but he worked for a movie production company based in Singapore. And he saw P. Ramlee perform. He sang in the contest, and then thought he would give him a chance in the movies. And he hired him, and he had his first role, a small role, in one of their movies in Singapore, and I think that was in 1948. And then in 1950, he had his first starring role. He was the star of a big movie. And it was an interesting time in the movies back then because there was a lot of singing. Singing was a big part of all these movies. And the normal thing was for them to hire an actor who looked good, a good-looking person with a certain style that they wanted for the actor, and who also had acting ability, but they may not necessarily have been a skilled singer. So they would hire a singer to sing the songs, and then they would dub in the singing, something like that. So the actor would not do his own singing. He'd be the movie star, and someone else was singing the songs for him. And then along comes P. Ramlee, and he was both. He was a good actor and a great singer, and he had style. He was a good-looking guy. He had charisma. So he was the whole package, and he went on to a very successful career. I'm not sure I have the numbers straight in my head, but I think he starred in 62 movies, or he was a big part of 62 movies, either as an actor, writer, director. He was involved in all aspects of film, and he wrote hundreds of songs. So I think the final tally, he actually wrote and recorded and released 390 of his own songs, and over 500 of his songs were recorded by him and by other people. So clearly, a very successful actor, writer, director, and singer. He was a true movie star of that era, P. Ramlee. An interesting thing is that P. Ramlee wasn't really his name at all. Let me look up his original name, because the one given to him by his parents, because I want to get that right. I have it here. So his given name was Tuku Zakaria, and his father's name was Tuku Nayak Pute. So if you look for his whole name, it could be Tuku Zakaria bin Tuku Nayak Pute. And later in life, he was given two honorific titles, which were added to the beginning of his name. So he ended up with a very long name with all sorts of titles at the beginning of it. But his name, according to his family, was Tuku Zakaria. But then when his father registered him in schools in Penang, he thought the name Tuku Zakaria would not be suitable, wasn't the same as the names of other boys, and gave him a new name and registered him as Ramlee when he registered him for school. And then Ramlee eventually took his father's name of Pute, so he was Ramlee Pute. And then I guess there was a style at the time of taking your father's name, the first initial, and putting it at the front, and he became P. Ramlee. Ramlee Pute became P. Ramlee, and that became his name for the rest of his life, and that's what he was known as a movie star and a singer, and the famous P. Ramlee today. Made it safely across another busy road, and as always, back at the main river of life, the confluence of the Gombak and Klang rivers, with the mosque there, Masjid Jamek. And everything around here is named after that mosque, Masjid Jamek. So those are the basic details of his life. The golden age of his career actually all took place in Singapore. That's when he was at his height of fame and productivity, and all his creative output, the largest part, was in Singapore. And then he moved back to Malaysia, and he took a house here in Kuala Lumpur. And he continued to work in the film industry and the singing industry, released a lot more movies and songs, but he didn't have the exact same kind of fame that he had in Singapore during the golden era. But his movies and his songs won all kinds of awards in the Asian equivalent of the Oscars, the Academy Awards. He won all kinds of awards for Best Singer, Best Actor, Best Screenwriting, all these sorts of things. And the memorial house was really well done. I had no idea what to expect when I went there, and I tracked it down. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting very much because it was the house where he lived with Saloma. I just assumed it would be his house as he left it when he finally passed away. And so I thought it'd be a house, and you could see his bedroom and his office and his living room, see his piano. You could do all of those things, but they had completely renovated the house. And when I was shooting the video there, I described it as a scrapbook combined with a movie theater, and all of it brought to life. So the whole place still had the same floor plan, the same layout as it did when it was his home. So you could see his dining room set, his living room, his music room, things like that. But each room looked like a little movie theater. So that was very, very cool. It looked like the outside of a theater with a marquee announcing the upcoming movies, that sort of thing. And all along the base were photographs of his family, his school years, all the clubs that he joined, all the athletic teams that he was members of, all of his accomplishments, trophies and awards and certificates. It was essentially a scrapbook to his entire life. And it was all laid out there. So all the things I've already talked about. I knew all of these things before I went to the memorial, but then I got to see it all brought to life because I read about his father and his mother and the schools he went to and his classmates and the bands that he was a member of. But here at the memorial, you saw photographs of all of these people, all of these schools, all of his classmates. And it was very, very well designed. I was so impressed with the place. The way they put the information together, very interesting, very imaginative, and very clear at the same time. And they had a little movie theater, very small one. You could seat maybe 10 people on soft benches there, and they had a big TV screen, and it's playing one of his movies. So you could go in there, sit down for a while, and the movie would play with English subtitles. And while I was there, I watched one of his comedies. And it was really funny. I wasn't expecting to see such a light-hearted, it was almost a farce in a way, like a bedroom farce, where there's all these people somehow ending up in the same farmhouse with all these bedrooms that were close together. And all through the day and all through the night, there were little romances going on amongst all the people staying there. And people were sneaking out of their bedroom to try to sneak into someone else's bedroom. And on the way, they would get caught. And then they would have to pretend that, oh, they were just going to the kitchen to get a drink of water. Everybody was sneaking around. It was basically, I don't know if that's a type of movie, bedroom farce, but that's, for some reason, that's the phrase that jumps into my head. So, but I laughed out loud many times while I was sitting in that little room all by myself watching this P. Ramlee movie. And I guess part of the problem in the past was all the P. Ramlee songs and movies that I'd watched and listened to were all on YouTube, and they were all extremely degraded. 360p resolution at the most, really difficult to make out what's going on. Quite often there were no English subtitles. You had to do the YouTube automated captions, which often made no sense and couldn't keep up with the dialogue. So I didn't really get the full effect. And this was the first time I saw a complete movie by P. Ramlee from beginning to end with clear images, clear sound, and English subtitles on the bottom. And it was really entertaining. It was a funny, funny movie. I don't care about the era. It would have been funny in the 40s. It would be funny in the 80s. It's funny today. And it turns out he wrote the script. P. Ramlee actually wrote the script to that movie. And he starred in it, and I believe he directed it as well. Maybe not directing. I know he starred and he wrote it. Not sure about the directing. But one thing about this museum, the Memorial House, well, two things. There's no charge to go in. It's free to everybody, which is good. But I showed up with my GoPro running, just as I'm doing now, walking through the Masjid Jamek market, by the way, right now. And they wouldn't let me in with the camera. They said that no video was allowed. You could take as many pictures as you like, but you were not allowed to shoot any video. I thought that was a little bit ironic because the man's life was dedicated to film. Basically, his career was based on video, and yet at his memorial house, you were not allowed to look at his life and record it on video. Kind of funny. But anyway, that worked out fine. I mean, the funny thing when I think about that is, what is a movie, film, or video? All it is a series of pictures, right? There's nothing so different between a picture and a movie. A movie is just a lot of pictures passing by very quickly, and it gives the illusion of motion, right? So when I was in there, they told me I couldn't take any video. So what I did is imagine what I would be saying as I walked through the place. And then from beginning to end of the museum, I just took pictures. I took pictures of every single display. And I thought, oh, if I were recording a video, what would I be saying right now? Based on what would I be looking at? So essentially, I was recording a video in my head, but I was not recording video with my camera. I was just taking pictures. But I took so many pictures that the end result will be a little bit like a video anyway. It'll be like a slideshow with voiceover narration. So it's kind of funny. There's no video allowed, but you can actually take so many pictures that it's almost the same thing as a video when you really think about it. So yeah, that was my visit there. Getting there by bus, by the way, worked out okay. I figured out I wanted to take bus 202. I found the bus stop. It's very near my hotel, and got on the bus. I had some small adventures trying to figure out the bus system, but it worked out okay, better than I expected. But then I also had to take a bus coming back, and then things got a little bit complicated because I followed Google Maps directions to the bus stop, and it said, okay, this is where the buses stop. So I went there, but it was all under construction. There were trucks blocking it, and I wasn't sure whether the bus would stop there or not, but it was the only option I could see. So I was standing there for a long time waiting for the next bus in a really hot sun. It was brutally hot. And then 2 buses finally came, and even though I waved at them and jumped up and down and pleaded and begged, they just drove right past me. Zoom, zoom. And then the drivers looked out the window and they just pointed behind them, and they were telling me that, no, this is not the bus stop. We can't stop here. Sorry, buddy. The bus stop is that way. And so after the 2 buses went past me, then I went walking up this very busy street, and then I found an actual bus stop. Had a little shelter, right? But I hadn't seen it before. And again, according to all the maps that I had, that's not where the bus stop was. I thought I was waiting at the actual bus stop, but I wasn't. And then when you go to that bus stop, the real one, there was nothing there anyway. There were no signs, no maps, no bus numbers, no information. There was nothing to indicate that it was an active bus stop, but it was my only choice. So I just settled down there. Again, waited for quite a while, and eventually a bus showed up. But it wasn't any of the buses I had any information about. I knew about 202 and I knew about bus 220 and other buses, and I'm waiting for those to show up. But then a bus came, had a totally different number. And I thought, I have no idea where this bus is going, but that's okay, I'm gonna get on anyway. I wanted to get out of the sun. And I just hopped on the bus, and I had Google Maps running, and then I just tracked our movement. And I thought, well, wherever this bus goes, it's going to go somewhere that's better than where I am. And if I ever get near any kind of an LRT or MRT station, then I'll just hop off. And that's what I did. Got on this bus, and it actually took me into Chow Kit. And I jumped off the bus in Chow Kit, and and I was right beside the Chow Kit LRT. So yeah, that worked out. There's a lot of uncertainty, which is the main thing I don't like about buses. You don't know if you're in the right place. There's no information. You don't know when the bus is going to come, if the bus is going to come, or how the bus is going to go. But in the end, with the power of Google Maps, you can just hop on the bus, track your movements, and see where you end up. And if you ever intersect with an LRT line, then you can hop off and get back to familiar ground, which is what I did. So I am back at my hotel. Yeah, it's the end of today's stories. I have a bunch of YouTube videos I wanted to talk about. I have some pop culture stories. I have a whole bunch of other things, but I've done so many things in the world of Planet Doug. I think those stories, plus my lunch today, that's enough for a behind the scenes video. Gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on in my life. So that's it. Thanks for keeping me company today. Thank you to Matthew for that amazing lunch at that Thai restaurant. Thank you to Daryl for coming out to meet both of us there. It was a fantastic lunch. really, really good day. I enjoyed that quite a bit. So that's it, shutting down, and I'll see you in the next video.